Hello everyone, we're back with a brand new story. Today, a cynical photographer buys an antique camera that only photographs people as they truly are, and then it accidentally takes a picture of him. Enjoy the show.
Look closely at this man, because he's about to disappear, and the thing that erases him is hanging right there around his neck. His name is Marcus, 25. A street photographer with one iron rule. He repeats like a prayer: the camera never lies. People lie, smiles lie, but a lens? A lens only records what is actually there. He spent 5 years pointing his camera at strangers, convinced he was the only honest man on the street. And in a few days, that sentence, "the camera never lies," is going to cost him absolutely everything. He found it the next morning at the autumn flea market, wedged between chipped teacups and dead men's pocket watches, an antique bellows camera, brass and black leather, with a small eye engraved on its face. It shouldn't have caught his attention. It did. The old woman behind the stall didn't haggle, didn't sell, didn't even blink. She simply lifted the camera toward him with both hands, the way you hand someone a sleeping animal, and studied his face for a long, uncomfortable moment. Then she said 7 words he would hear in his sleep for the rest of his life. "It only takes portraits of the truth." He laughed, he paid, and behind him, very quietly, the old woman began packing up her stall. Her work for the day was done. That night, the camera sat on his desk like a guest who already knew it was staying. Marcus turned the lamp on it and searched every inch. No brand, no serial number, no film counter, just brass, worn leather, and that little engraved eye on the front plate, catching the lamplight in a way that felt less like a reflection and more like attention. He loaded a roll of film. The shutter closed with a sound like someone finishing a sentence. And when he finally switched off the lamp and walked away, he could have sworn he heard a second, softer click behind him in the dark. He told himself it was the wood cooling. He told himself a lot of things that week. He tested it on the grumpiest man in the neighborhood, the old flower seller on the corner, 60 years of scowl in an apron, a man who handed you roses like he was handing you a parking ticket, one portrait, free print. The old man sighed, squared his shoulders, and glared straight down the lens like it had insulted his mother. Click, one frame. No screen to check, no preview to scroll, just film patience, and whatever that little glass eye had decided to see. Marcus walked home with a strange weight in his chest. The feeling you get when you've asked a question and you're not entirely sure you want the answer. In the red glow of the darkroom, he lifted the print out of the developer and stopped breathing. The photograph showed the flower stall, the scowl, the apron, all exactly as it happened, but the frame was wider than the shot he took, because standing in the left of that picture, seen from behind, camera raised, was Marcus himself. He checked the negative twice. There had been no one behind him, no second photographer, no window, no reflection. This camera hadn't photographed what was in front of it. It had photographed the whole truth of the moment, including the man who thought he was safely on the other side of the lens. That was the night Marcus should have thrown it in the river. Instead, he became the strangest gift giver in the city. He photographed the tired waitress at the corner cafe and handed her the print 2 days later, wrapped in brown paper. She unfolded it on the sidewalk, looked at it for 3 full seconds, and burst into tears right there in the street, laughing and crying at once, pressing the photograph to her chest like something she'd lost years ago and never expected back. She couldn't explain it. Neither could the others. One by one, they all looked up at him with the exact same expression. "How did you know?" Marcus never answered. Because the honest reply was starting to frighten him, he didn't know anything. The camera did, and lately he had the distinct feeling it had grown bored of strangers. It happened on a Tuesday in a small park off the main street. He'd set the camera on a wooden bench to frame a shot of the falling leaves, leaning down to adjust the angle, and his sleeve caught the timer lever. A whir, a click, and the flash detonated straight into his face, freezing him mid-flinch with his hands up like a man caught in headlights. Marcus stood there in the drifting leaves with his heart hammering, waiting for a danger that never arrived. "It's a box with a lens," he told himself. "It photographed my face. That's all a camera can do." He picked it up, walked home, and left that roll of film sitting on the desk, untouched, for 3 days. On the third night, he couldn't stand it anymore. Red light, developer, tongs, and the truth floated up out of the tray the way it always does, slowly and then all at once. The bench was there, the autumn street was there, the olive green jacket was there, every crease exactly where he remembered it. But the person standing inside that jacket, hands in the pockets, dark hair spilling in waves past her shoulders, looking straight down the lens with his own crooked half-smile, was a young woman. Marcus held that print above the tray until his arm shook. "Wrong frame," he whispered to an empty room. But there was no wrong frame. There was only one camera, one negative, and 5 years of a man telling the whole world that the camera never lies. So he declared war on a box. Fresh roll, tripod, timer click, her, new location, better light, different pose click, her, again. By midnight, the drying line looked like a gallery show with a single impossible subject. The same woman in the same olive jacket, standing, turning, smiling, and in the last 2 frames laughing head back, delighted as if she found the whole argument hilarious. Marcus sank to the darkroom floor and sat there under his own evidence, looking up at 6 photographs of a person who did not exist. And somewhere in that red silence, the question finally arrived. Not what is this camera doing to me, but something much worse. What if it isn't doing anything at all? The answer was in the camera case, folded under the lining, soft as cloth from being handled too many times. A note, torn at the creases, written in a hurried hand. "It develops you. In the dark, the light reveals," and at the bottom a date, October 19th, and a single initial, M. Marcus, read it 11 times. Someone had owned this camera before him. Someone had sat exactly where he was sitting, with the same impossible photographs drying on the same kind of line, and had left instructions for whoever came next. It develops you. The camera wasn't changing anything. It was doing what a darkroom does, taking something that already existed in the dark and making it visible. After that, the changes came the way morning comes too gradually to catch, too surely to stop. His jacket started hanging differently across his shoulders. The barber said, "Same as always," and heard him answer, "No, leave it longer." Then, one evening, walking down the hallway to his apartment, he stopped dead. The wall lamp threw his shadow across the floorboards ahead of him, and the shadow had long, soft waves of hair falling past its shoulders. It moved when he moved. It was his. Marcus stood in that corridor for a long time, staring at a silhouette that should have terrified him. The strange part wasn't the shadow. The strange part was how much it looked like something finally coming into focus. "You look different, kid." The old flower seller said it while holding out a single red rose, and the miracle was in his face. The scowl had lost about 40 years of weight since that photograph. "Lighter, like you finally put something down." Marcus took the rose with hair now falling well past his collar and realized the old man was right about all of them. The waitress had gone back to dancing. There were flyers in the cafe window. The tired ones were walking taller. Every person he'd handed a photograph to had quietly started walking toward the version of themselves the camera had seen. The portraits were never predictions. They were permissions, And in his bag, still wrapped in brown paper, was the one photograph he had never delivered, his own. That night, the dark room felt like a chapel. He stood in the red light, with the last print in his hand, the sharpest one, the one where she looked straight into the lens with his own stubbornness in her eyes, and understood that every choice he'd ever avoided had been rescheduled for this moment. He could burn it and stay exactly what he'd been for 25 years, a person left in the developer too short a time, gray and blurred and safe, or he could hang it up with the others and let it finish. Marcus lifted his hand, pressed the wooden clip onto the line, and let go of the photograph. Around him, 6 versions of her smiled from the drying line, and the red light held its breath. He fell asleep on the couch with the dark room door left open, red light spilling across the floorboards like a slow tide, and in the small hours the developing finished. It moved the way it does in the tray, nothing, and then everything at once, edges softening, lines resolving, 100 quiet corrections rising up out of the dark where they had been waiting the entire time. Long dark waves spread across the cushion. The breathing under the blanket went soft and even on the desk. The little brass eye watched the whole thing without blinking, gold sparks drifting through the red air like dust in a beam of light. Nothing was being created that night. Something was simply becoming visible. Morning came in amber through the curtains, and she woke the way you wake from the first real sleep in years, slowly, completely unafraid. The olive green jacket had slipped off one shoulder and no longer fit at all, which somehow felt correct. She sat up, crossed her legs on the couch, and picked up the antique camera from the table. It settled into her hands like it had been calibrated for this grip from the very beginning. On the table beside her, 3 prints lay drying the same face, now looking back at her from the same side of the lens. She turned the camera around and studied the little engraved eye. "Okay," said Mia, out loud, to a room that had been waiting patiently all night. "Now we're in focus." The city got its strange photographer back, same iron rule, brand new eyes. She still works golden hour along the old harbor road, where the light comes off the water and turns everyone into a better version of themselves. She still hands people the truth in brown paper and refuses to explain it. The flower seller still demands his portrait every autumn and still comes out grinning 20 years younger. But everyone agrees the work has changed. The photographs are warmer now, kinder, like the person behind the lens finally stopped arguing with what she saw, and when strangers ask Mia for her secret, she gives them the same 7 words she was given and lets them think it's a joke. It only takes portraits of the truth. On the first cold morning of the next autumn, Mia walked back to the flea market, same square, same stall, same old woman who really should not still be standing there, and set the camera down on the table between them. Neither of them said a word. There was nothing to say that both didn't already know. The old woman simply smiled and turned the brass body to face the crowd, and the little eye at the center of the lens caught the morning light and held it. Somewhere in that market, right now, there is a person walking past who has never dared develop the picture of who they really are. The camera is patient, the camera is honest, and the camera is already looking at them.